Hey, student, how are you? Welcome to our session on the graphs of sine and cosine. Let's take a look. The sine function, y equals sine of x. Sine is the y coordinate of each point on the unit circle. So we can fill in our table to graph this function using the unit circle, starting with sine of 0. Sine of 0 is the y coordinate of this point. Sine of 0 is 0. Sine of pi over 2 radians is 1. Sine of pi radians is 0. Sine of 3 pi over 2 radians is -1. And sine of 2 pi is 0. And we'll graph these points. And we've got 0, 0, pi over 2, 1, pi, 0, 3 pi over 2, -1, and 2 pi, 0. And this is one cycle of our sine wave. There it is. Let's take a look at a couple more cycles of our sine function. So here is one cycle that we just graphed. And let's go to the left. We'll go clockwise around our circle, -90 degrees, -180 degrees, -270 degrees, and back to -360. And we can fill in our table. -90 degrees, the y coordinate is -1. And we can see if we continue this cycle, we will go down to -1, and then back up to 0, up to 1, and back to 0. We'll fill this in. Back up 0, pi, and to 1, and there it is. So there is another cycle of our sine function. And then if we went all the way around the circle, 360 degrees, and then continued around the circle, we would get to 450 degrees. And sine is the y value. And back around, -1 and 0. And we can see that in our graph if we continue. 0, -1, and there it is. So here we have another couple of cycles of our sine function. Let's take a look at the key features of our sine function. The domain. The domain is all real numbers, -infinity to infinity. We don't have any domain restrictions. The range. We go down to -1 and up to +1. The midline. The midline is the x-axis. Y equals 0. Y equals 0. The amplitude is the height from the midline to the maximum, or the height from the midline to the minimum. So our amplitude is 1. And the period is how long it takes to graph one full cycle. If we start at 0, the midline, go up to the maximum, through the midline to the minimum, and back up to the midline, this is one full cycle. We see that one full cycle is 2 pi. And we can see that over here as well if we go to another part of our graph, 0, down to the minimum, up to the maximum, and back to the midline. Here is another cycle, 2 pi. And then you can see that one here as well, 2 pi long. Let's do cosine. Cosine. Cosine is the x-coordinate of each point on the unit circle. And we'll fill in our table. Cosine of 0 is 1. Cosine of pi over 2 radians, 0. -1, 0, and back to 1. And we'll graph these points. Starting with 0, 1, we go down to 0, pi over 2, 0, pi, -1, 3 pi over 2, 0, and 2 pi, 1. And here is one cycle of our cosine function, our cosine wave. There we are. Let's take a look at a couple more cycles. Cosine will go clockwise around our circle, negative angles, -90 all the way. And we have the x coordinate is cosine, x coordinate. Okay, and we can see another cycle of our cosine function. We'll go down to the midline, -1, 0, and back up to 1. So here's another cycle. And we can go to the right as well. If we go all the way around the circle and then continue, we'll continue this way all the way around the circle. Continuing, we get to 450 degrees. And the x coordinate is 0. Cosine is the x coordinate. And then continuing around the unit circle using our x coordinate. And we get another cycle of our graph. And there it is. Let's take a look at the key features of cosine. The domain. The domain is all real numbers, -infinity to infinity. We don't have any domain restrictions. The range. We go down -1 all the way up to +1. The midline is the x-axis, y equals 0. The amplitude is the height from the midline to the maximum or from the midline to the minimum. Our amplitude is 1. And the period of our cosine function, 1 full cycle. If we start at a maximum, go down to the minimum, and get back to the maximum, we see that 1 full cycle is again 2 pi. And that concludes sine and cosine. Thanks so much for joining our session, and I'll see you next time.